The Alien and Sedition Act was written during a tumultuous time in American history. The country was bitterly divided, and the administration, looking at developments in France and elsewhere, feared a violent confrontation could be in the works. Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans definitely supported the French Revolution, and that's something that deeply scared Adams, Hamilton, and the Federalists generally. So they passed the Alien and Sedition Act as a countermeasure against sedition generally. And specifically, they passed measures that targeted speech against the government. But looking at the language of the act itself, it's clear that it's intended as a anti-revolutionary measure. The language is about obstructing the law and about inciting the population against the president and the government. This still is unfortunately very relevant in today's America. The country is today very divided, and the last election being contested by um, by the losing side led to a riot, what's called an insurrection, at the nation's capital. In response to that event, several modern publications have re-examined the Alien Sedition Act in a modern context. And although they hit many of the same notes, there are some complexities to the modern situation that mean it's not precisely analogous. Um, the act at the time addresses action specifically, but leaves uh, what qualifies as sedition and slanderous speech very, very vague, which the Washington Post article, which is generally in favor of the principles um, on which the Alien Sedition Act is grounded, namely fighting misinformation and anti-government rhetoric. Um, it appeals to that authority, but it disagrees with the way it was executed historically, saying, quote, the notion of what constituted falsehood proved problematic for the Adams administration because it used the Alien Sedition Act to prosecute its political enemies. The Washington Post argues, however, that the general spirit behind the Alien Sedition Act, that the truth would not win out in open debate, and there needs to be some sort of editorial control, um, is true as a rule applied to modern discourse. The Wall Street Journal argues against this notion, um, mainly taking issue with the fact that such pro-censorship arguments um, are inherently very nebulous, and that taking the even taking the control of what is considered dangerous misinformation away from the government is still in the hands of a an unaccountable authority that is very able to abuse it. As it was abused historically, the Wall Street Journal argues there's no reason it wouldn't be abused in the current context as well. Um, Both these sides skirt around the issue of the fact that the modern context would not be dealing directly with the government's authority, but rather with a very nebulous um, media authority over other forms of discourse, and that modern technology makes such censorship virtually, um, if not virtually impossible, at least very difficult, even for state actors, much less some broader um, editorialism in society. But the fact that this issue continues to to raise such relevance today speaks to the historical significance of the issue at heart of the Alien Sedition Act, the question of to what extent can liberty be compromised to ensure the general safety. And this is a question that the controversy of the Alien Sedition Act shows even the founding fathers disagreed on very strongly. Madison and Jefferson compromised the foundations of the Republic, supporting the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions because they were so opposed to the Alien Sedition Act. And in the same way, it's pretty obvious that Hamilton and Adams compromised those same ideals of freedom, of free expression that they supported at the Constitutional Convention because they viewed the dangers of unfettered speech as too much for the Republic to bear. So on both sides, there is significant investment in this issue that continues to be with us today.